My name is Cassidy Harper, and I'm 28 years old. Right now I'm standing outside the house I grew up in, holding an envelope that changed everything. 6 years ago, my parents kicked me out of this place because my older sister Meredith couldn't stand having me around. They chose her happiness over my existence. I left with one suitcase and a shattered heart. But here's the thing about being thrown away like garbage. Sometimes it teaches you to rebuild yourself into something they never saw coming. And now I'm back. Not as the broken 22-year-old they discarded, but as someone they desperately need. Before we dive into this story, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. And if you've ever felt like the black sheep in your family, hit that like button so I know I'm not alone. Subscribe because trust me, what happened next is going to shock you. Let's get into it. Growing up, I always knew something was off in our family. I just couldn't put my finger on it when I was younger. My sister Meredith is 3 years older than me, and from the moment I have memories, she was the sun and I was just this distant planet nobody really noticed. My parents, Robert and Diane Harper, they weren't bad people, exactly. They just had this weird blindness when it came to comparing us. And they compared us constantly. I remember being in 5th grade, bringing home straight A's on my report card. My mom glanced at it, smiled this tight little smile and said, "Well, that's what we expect from you, honey." That same day, Meredith came home with mostly B's and 1 C in math. My parents threw her a celebration dinner at her favorite restaurant. They told her how proud they were that she tried her best. I sat there eating breadsticks, confused about what I'd done wrong. It kept happening, over and over. When I won the state science fair in 8th grade, my parents missed the awards ceremony because Meredith had a regular volleyball game, not playoffs, not championships, just a regular Tuesday game where she sat on the bench most of the time. When I asked why they couldn't come to both, my dad said volleyball was important for Meredith's self-esteem. What about my self-esteem? I wanted to ask. But I was 13 and I didn't have the words yet. Meredith made junior varsity volleyball sophomore year, and you'd think she won an Olympic gold medal. There were balloons, a cake, a whole party. Meanwhile, I got early acceptance to Cornell with a full scholarship when I was 15, and my mom asked me not to mention it at dinner because Meredith was having a hard day. That's when I started to understand. Nothing I did would ever be enough. Not because I wasn't achieving, but because my achievements made Meredith feel bad about herself. And in my family, Meredith's feelings were the only ones that mattered. The real manipulation started when I was 15 and Meredith was 18. I'd just gotten my acceptance letter to Cornell, full ride, biomedical engineering program. I was so excited I could barely breathe. I showed my parents at dinner, expecting them to be happy for me. My dad nodded. My mom said, "Congratulations." Then Meredith got up from the table and ran to her room crying. I sat there, letter in my hand, feeling like I'd done something terrible. Later that night, I heard Meredith talking to my parents in their bedroom. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but my room shared a wall, and Meredith wasn't exactly quiet. "She does this on purpose," Meredith sobbed. "She makes me feel worthless. She knows I barely got into community college and she's rubbing Cornell in my face. I can't live like this anymore. She's destroying my mental health." I pressed my ear against the wall, heart pounding. My mother's voice, soft and soothing. "Sweetie, I'm sure Cassidy didn't mean it that way." "Yes, she did." Meredith's voice got louder. "Everything is always about Cassidy and her perfect grades and her perfect life. What about me? Don't I matter?" "Of course you matter, honey. You matter so much." Then my dad's voice, firm and decisive. "Well, talk to Cassidy. Well, ask her to be more considerate of your feelings." I pulled away from the wall, feeling sick. The next morning at breakfast, my parents sat me down for a talk. They asked me to downplay my achievements around Meredith, to be more sensitive, to understand that not everyone was as academically gifted as I was, and flaunting it was hurtful. I was 15 years old and I learned that day that my success was something I needed to apologize for. College was supposed to be my escape, and it was. Sort of. Cornell was amazing. I threw myself into my studies, made friends, discovered I was actually good at biomedical engineering. Really good. For the first time in my life, I was around people who celebrated intelligence instead of resenting it. But family holidays were brutal. I'd come home for Thanksgiving or Christmas, and within hours, I'd remember why I felt so small in that house. Phone calls home were rare, and always the same. My mom would spend 45 minutes telling me about Meredith's latest drama, her job troubles, her friend troubles, her money troubles. Then she'd ask how I was doing, and before I could answer with more than a sentence, she'd cut me off with something else about Meredith. One Christmas break during my junior year, I made the mistake of mentioning my internship at a pharmaceutical company. I was excited. It was a huge opportunity. I thought maybe my parents would be proud. Meredith's face crumpled. She put down her fork and her eyes filled with tears. "Must be nice," she said, voice shaking. "Some of us can't even get a call back for a retail job." My mother reached over and squeezed Meredith's hand. Then she looked at me, disappointed. "Cassidy, that was insensitive. Your sister is going through a hard time right now." I stared at my plate, that familiar sick feeling in my stomach. My dad cleared his throat. "Maybe we can talk about something else. Something we all have in common." The message was clear. My life, my achievements, my joy, they didn't belong at this table. They upset Meredith, and upsetting Meredith was the worst sin I could commit. I started going to Juliet's house for holidays after that. She was my roommate at Cornell, and her family actually wanted to hear about my life. It was weird at first, being somewhere people asked questions and listened to the answers. But here's what I was slowly realizing. For years, I thought I was the problem. I thought maybe I was bragging without meaning to, or being insensitive, or doing something wrong that I couldn't see. My parents had convinced me that my existence was somehow an attack on Meredith. But sitting at Juliet's family table, watching her parents celebrate her brother's promotion and her sister's new apartment and Juliet's Dean's List achievement all in the same conversation, I finally understood. The problem was never me. I graduated Cornell with honors, top 5% of my class. I had a job offer in Boston starting in 6 months. Good salary, great benefits, real career potential. I was 22 years old and my whole life was ahead of me. I just needed a place to stay for those 6 months to save money before the move. I called my parents and asked if I could come home temporarily, pay rent, help with bills, just until my job started. There was a long pause on the phone. My mother finally said, "Meredith is living here right now. She's going through a difficult time." "I know, Mom. I'll stay out of her way, I promise." Another pause. "Let me talk to your father." They said yes eventually, but I could hear the reluctance in their voices. Looking back, I should have known. I should have found literally anywhere else to go, but I missed my family. Some pathetic part of me still hoped that maybe things would be different now that I was an adult, that maybe we could find a way to actually be a family. I was so stupid. Moving back into my childhood bedroom at 22 felt surreal. Nothing had changed. Same bedspread, same desk, same posters on the walls from high school. It was like they'd kept it as a shrine to who I used to be, but never bothered to know who I'd become. Meredith was 25 and living in the bedroom across the hall. She'd never left home. She worked part-time at a coffee shop, took online classes she never finished, and spent most of her time on the couch watching reality TV. I tried to be friendly that first week, asked about her life, her interests, her plans. She gave me one-word answers and looked at me like I was some kind of intruder, which, in her mind, I guess I was. The first month wasn't terrible. I paid my parents $800 for rent and groceries. I made dinner most nights. I kept my room clean and stayed quiet. I was working on applications for my Boston job, doing research, trying to stay out of everyone's way. Meredith contributed exactly $0 to the household. My parents never asked her to, but I could feel the tension building. The way Meredith would glare at me across the dinner table, the way my mom would flinch whenever I mentioned anything about my upcoming job, the way my dad avoided being in the same room as both of us. Then the sabotage started. Week 1, Meredith spilled an entire cup of coffee on my laptop. My laptop that had all my job applications, all my research, everything. It was sitting on the kitchen table, closed, not in anyone's way. She walked past it with her mug and just knocked it over. The coffee went everywhere. My laptop died instantly. Oops, she said, not looking sorry at all. Accidents happen. I spent the next 3 days at the library using public computers, trying to recover what I could from cloud storage. My parents said these things happen and bought Meredith a new coffee maker so she wouldn't feel bad. Week 3, I bought groceries with my own money. Meal prep for the week, healthy food, stuff I needed. I labeled everything with my name and put it in the fridge. The next day, it was all gone. Just gone. I asked Meredith if she'd seen it. She shrugged. I thought it was for everyone. It had my name on it. Well, we're family. We share. I looked at my mom, who was standing right there. Mom, I bought that with my own money. That was a week of meals. My mother sighed. Cassidy, don't be selfish. Meredith is family. You can't expect her to starve while there's food in the house. Then she can buy her own food. She's going through a hard time financially. I bought groceries again and kept them in a mini fridge in my room. Week 5 was when things got really bad. Meredith had this guy friend named Kyle over a lot. He was loud, obnoxious, treated my parents' house like his personal hangout. I tried to be polite, but he gave me the creeps. Something about the way he looked at me when Meredith wasn't watching. One night I came home from the library and found my bedroom door open. I always kept it locked. Always. But somehow it was open. My jewelry box had been rifled through. Nothing expensive. I didn't own anything valuable, but there were a few pieces my grandmother had given me before she died. Sentimental stuff. All of it gone. I stormed downstairs where Meredith and Kyle were on the couch. Someone went through my room, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. My jewelry is missing. Kyle didn't even look up from his phone. Meredith's eyes went wide. Are you accusing me of stealing? Her voice got loud immediately. I'm saying someone went into my room and took my things. Well, it wasn't me. Maybe you misplaced them. I didn't misplace them, Meredith. They were in my jewelry box, which someone opened. She stood up, face red. I can't believe you're accusing me. Your own sister. You've always thought you were better than me. This is just like you. I'm not saying I'm better than anyone. I'm saying someone stole from me. Kyle finally stood up, getting in my space. You need to watch how you talk to her. She didn't touch your stuff. Then who did? How should I know? Maybe you're lying for attention. My parents came in then, drawn by the noise. The whole thing turned into this huge drama. Meredith crying about how Ed accused her. Kyle playing protective boyfriend, me trying to explain what happened. My parents didn't believe me. They said I was being paranoid. That maybe Ed lost the jewelry during the move. That I shouldn't accuse people without proof. I looked at Kyle, who had this tiny smirk on his face. He knew exactly where my jewelry was. That night, I heard Meredith talking to my parents again through the wall. I can't do this anymore, she said, crying. Cassidy makes me feel unsafe in my own home. She's constantly accusing me of things. I can't eat. I can't sleep. My anxiety is through the roof. My dad's voice, well, handle it. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, realizing with absolute clarity that nothing I said or did would ever matter. They would always believe her. Always choose her. I could have video evidence and it still wouldn't be enough. But I had nowhere else to go. My job didn't start for 2 more months. I had savings, but not enough for first and last month's rent in Boston. I was trapped. Then month 4 hit, and everything exploded. Kyle moved in. I came home one day and he was just there. Boxes in the hallway, his clothes in Meredith's room, acting like he owned the place. Mom, what's going on? I asked. My mother was doing dishes, not making eye contact. Kyle is going to be staying with us for a while. Meredith needs his support. Hez moving in? Did anyone think to mention this to me? It's not your house, Cassidy. It's ours. Meredith needed this, and we agreed. Kyle was a nightmare roommate. He ate all the food, left messes everywhere, played video games until 3 in the morning with the volume up, and treated my parents like servants. They never said a word to him. But if I left a coffee cup in the sink, my mother would give me a lecture about being considerate. I started sleeping with a chair wedged against my door because Kyle made me that uncomfortable. Then came the night that changed everything. I was up late working on applications. Everyone else had gone to bed. I heard footsteps in the hallway and didn't think much of it until my doorknob turned. The chair held. Someone pushed against the door. Cassidy. Kyle's voice slurred. He was drunk. You awake? My heart started pounding. Go away, Kyle. Come on, don't be like that. I just want to talk. Go back to Meredith's room. He rattled the doorknob harder. Why you gotta be so uptight? I've seen how you look at me. I grabbed my phone, ready to call the police. Kyle, leave now or I'm calling the cops. He laughed. Calling the cops on your sister's boyfriend? That'll go over great with your parents. But he left. I heard him stumble back down the hallway. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I pulled Meredith aside and told her what happened. That Kyle had tried to get into my room drunk. That head said inappropriate things. That I felt unsafe. Meredith's face went hard. Kyle would never do that. You're lying. I'm not lying. Meredith, your boyfriend tried to get into my room last night. He probably thought it was the bathroom. He was drunk. The bathroom doesn't have a lock. So now you're calling him a predator? My boyfriend. I'm saying I'm uncomfortable. She got right in my face. You're jealous. You've always been jealous that I have someone and you're alone. You probably came on to him and now you're making up stories when he rejected you. I felt like I'd been slapped. That's insane, Meredith. Why would I do that? Because you're a vindictive person who can't stand to see me happy. I should have left right then, packed my stuff and found anywhere else to go. But I was frozen, unable to believe my own sister would twist things like this. I didn't know the worst was yet to come. 2 weeks later, I came home to find my parents waiting for me in the living room. Their faces were stone. Meredith was there crying. Kyle stood behind her with his arms crossed. Sit down, Cassidy, my dad said. My stomach dropped. What's going on? We need to talk about something serious. I sat on the edge of the couch, looking between them. My mom's voice was shaking. $2,000 is missing from our safe. The room started spinning. What? $2,000 cash. Your father's emergency money, it's gone. Okay, but what does that have to do with me? Kyle stepped forward. I was looking for a phone charger in your room this morning. Found $500 in cash in your drawer. Seemed weird, so I told Diane and Robert. Everything stopped. You went through my room. Don't change the subject, my dad cut in. Where did that money come from? That's my money, from my savings. I keep cash in case of emergencies. $500 exactly. My mom's voice was cold. The same denominations that are missing from our safe. This is insane. I didn't take anything from your safe, Meredith spoke up through her tears. I told them you wouldn't do this. I defended you. But they found the money, Cassidy. Someone planted it. Kyle planted it. Kyle's eyes narrowed. Here we go again, accusing people, just like with the jewelry. I looked at my parents desperately. Dad, check the safe. Count what's missing. I only had $500 in my room. If $2,000 is gone, where's the rest? Stop trying to confuse the issue, my father said. I'm not. This is obviously a setup. Kyle steals 2,000 plants, 500 in my room, and keeps 1,500 for himself. My mother stood up. Enough! We raised you better than this, to steal from your own family and then lie about it. I'm not lying. The evidence is right there, Cassidy. I turned to Meredith, pleading. You know I wouldn't do this. Please. Meredith looked away, shaking her head. I don't know what to believe anymore. That's when I realized they'd already decided. This wasn't a conversation. It was a sentencing. I stood up, hands shaking. You're all insane. I didn't steal anything. And the fact that you won't even consider that Kyle is lying tells me everything I need to know about this family. My father's face went red. Watch your tone. No. I'm done watching my tone. I'm done apologizing for existing. I'm done being the problem in this house when I've done nothing wrong. You stole from us, my mother said quietly. I didn't. Then prove it. How? How do I prove I didn't do something? You've already decided him guilty. The room went silent. My dad stood up slowly. Pack your things, you're leaving. The world tilted. What? You heard me. I want you out of this house. Dad, please, we can't have a thief living here. You have until tomorrow morning. I looked at my mother, desperate. Mom. She was crying, but her voice was firm. I think it's best if you go, Cassidy. You're choosing them over me? Your own daughter. You chose this when you stole from us. I laughed then. This horrible, bitter sound. I didn't steal anything, but sure. Believe the deadbeat boyfriend who tried to get into my room drunk. Believe the sister who's hated me her entire life. Don't believe me. Why would you start now? That's when Meredith played her final card. She stood up, face blotchy from crying, and looked at our parents with these devastated eyes. I need to tell you something, she said softly. I didn't want to say this because she's my sister, but I can't keep quiet anymore. Oh no. What is it, honey? My mom asked, going to her immediately. The reason I've been so stressed lately. The reason my anxiety has been so bad. She took a shaky breath. It's because of Cassidy. Living with her has been destroying my mental health. My dad frowned. What do you mean? She makes me feel worthless. Every single day. She talks down to me. She flaunts her success. She makes me feel like I'm nothing. Meredith's voice broke convincingly. I've tried so hard to get along with her, to welcome her home, but she treats me like garbage. That's not true, I said, but my voice sounded weak even to me. Meredith turned to them, tears streaming. Mom, Dad, I'm begging you, please. I can't heal with her here. I can't get better. She's toxic. And there it was, the final blow. My mother looked at my father. Some silent communication passed between them. Then my dad looked at me, and I saw the decision in his eyes before he even spoke. You have until tomorrow morning, he repeated. After that, I'm changing the locks. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. I sat on my childhood bed surrounded by boxes and bags, trying to figure out how my life had fallen apart so completely. At 7 the next morning, my parents called me down for a family meeting. Because of course they did. They couldn't just let me leave. They had to make it official. I came downstairs to find everyone gathered in the living room, my parents on the couch, Meredith in the armchair looking exhausted and sad. Kyle standing behind her with his hand on her shoulder like some kind of supportive partner instead of the manipulative thief he actually was. I stood in the doorway. Didn't sit. Wasn't planning to stay long enough. My mother spoke first, and she was crying. Cassidy, we've been up all night talking about this. Great. Don't be disrespectful, my dad warned. I laughed, actually laughed. Right. Disrespect. That's the problem here. My mom wiped her eyes. We can't have a thief in this house. The money, the jewelry, the lying, it's too much. I didn't do any of those things. Please stop lying, she said quietly. It makes this so much harder. You want to know what makes this hard? My voice came out louder than I meant. You believing Kyle, a guy you've known for 2 months, over me, your daughter. The one you've known for 22 years. My father shifted forward. This isn't about belief. It's about evidence. Evidence that was planted, Cassidy. He held up his hand. Meredith has asked us to make a choice. She says she can't continue living here with you. Her mental health can't take it anymore. I looked at Meredith. She was staring at her hands, picking at her nail polish, playing the victim perfectly. So you're choosing her. My mother's face crumpled. She needs us right now. She's going through so much. And I don't need you? Your other daughter doesn't matter. That's not what we're saying. Then what are you saying? My father stood up. His voice was hard, final. The voice he used when Head made a decision and wouldn't change his mind. We're saying you need to leave, today, this morning. Meredith has asked us to choose, and we're choosing her. She's fragile right now. She needs stability and support, and your presence is preventing that. The words hung in the air. I waited for my mother to object, to say something, to stand up for me even a little bit. She didn't. I looked at each of them. My father with his arms crossed. My mother crying into a tissue. Meredith still looking down. Kyle with that tiny smirk. "So that's it," I said softly. 22 years and this is how it ends. "You're being dramatic," my dad said. "Am I? You're throwing me out, literally kicking me to the curb because Meredith doesn't like me." "That's not fair," Meredith spoke up, voice small. "I don't hate you. I just can't heal with you here." "Heal from what? What have I ever done to you?" She finally looked up at me, and for just a second, I saw it. The truth in her eyes, the satisfaction, the victory. Then it was gone, hidden behind tears again. "You make me feel inadequate," she whispered. "Every day. Just by existing." And there it was. The real reason. Not anything I'd done. Just who I was. My existence was the crime. My mother stood up and came toward me. For a second I thought maybe she was going to hug me, to say she was sorry, to change her mind. Instead, she said, "Please pack your things. Your father wants you gone by noon." I stepped back from her. "Don't touch me. Cassidy, no. You don't get to comfort me right now. You're choosing her. Own it." I went back upstairs and started packing in a blur. Everything felt surreal. Like I was watching myself from outside my body. My childhood bedroom. The place I'd grown up. The walls that had heard me cry over bad grades and boy problems and friendship drama. The desk where I'd studied for every test. The bed where I'd dreamed about my future. I looked around at the trophies on the shelves. Academic awards, science competitions, debate tournaments. All those achievements they'd never celebrated. Then I noticed something I'd never really registered before. The family photos on the walls. I went closer, really looking at them for the first time in years. There were dozens of photos. Family vacations, holidays, birthdays. And in every single one, Meredith was centered. Front and center, smiling at the camera. I was in maybe half of them. And in the ones I was in, I was always on the edge of the frame. Sometimes half cut off. In a few, you could barely tell I was there. They'd been cropping me out of the family for years. Literally. I pulled the photos off the walls and threw them in the trash. I packed one suitcase and a backpack. That was all I could carry. I left behind everything else. My books, my trophies, my childhood things. Let them rot there. Let Meredith have my room. She'd probably turn it into a closet. The only things I took were my clothes, my documents, my laptop, and my phone. And my bank cards. Thank God I'd always kept my own accounts separate from the family. I checked my balance on my phone. $4,300. My savings. It wasn't much, but it was mine. They couldn't take it from me. I dragged my suitcase downstairs. It was 10:30, an hour and a half early, but I wasn't going to sit in that room a second longer than I had to. My parents were in the kitchen. Meredith and Kyle were on the couch watching TV like nothing was happening. I stood in the doorway with my suitcase. "I'm leaving." My mother turned around. Her eyes were red. "Do you need help carrying anything?" "No." "Do you have somewhere to go?" "Does it matter?" "Of course it matters. You're still our daughter." I laughed, this broken sound. Am I? Because daughters don't get thrown out. Garbage gets thrown out. My father came out of the kitchen, wiping his hands on a towel. He looked old suddenly, tired. "This is for the best," he said. "Not to me." To himself. "Sure it is." I walked to the front door, put my hand on the knob, turned back one last time. Meredith was watching me from the couch. Our eyes met. And she smiled. Just a little, just enough for me to see. Shed won. After all these years of competing with me, of hating me, of making my life miserable, Shed finally gotten what she wanted. Me gone. One day, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "You're all going to realize what you've done. And it's going to be too late." My mother took a step forward. "Cassidy, please don't call me. Don't text me. Don't contact me at all until you're ready to apologize." To really apologize. Not just some half-assed sorry you felt that way thing. An actual apology where you admit you were wrong. My father's jaw tightened. We're not the ones who need to apologize. Of course not. You never are. I opened the door. The morning sun was bright. It hurt my eyes. Goodbye, I said, and I walked out. The door closed behind me with a click that sounded like finality. I stood on the porch for a long moment, suitcase in hand, backpack over my shoulder. The neighborhood was quiet, normal, like the world wasn't ending. I pulled out my phone and ordered an Uber to the nearest hostel. It would eat into my savings, but I needed somewhere to stay while I figured things out. The Uber pulled up 15 minutes later. I loaded my stuff into the trunk and climbed into the back seat. "Where you headed?" the driver asked. "Friendly. Boston," I said. Eventually. As we pulled away from the curb, I looked back at the house one last time. The house I'd grown up in. The house that was never really mine. And I made myself a promise. I was going to survive this. I was going to build a life for myself. A good life. A successful life. A life they couldn't touch or ruin or take away from me. I was going to show them exactly what they threw away. I just had to make it through first. The first year after they kicked me out was the hardest year of my life. I moved to Boston 3 weeks early, before my job started. Couldn't afford to stay in Connecticut a second longer. I found a hostel near downtown that charged $30 a night, and that's where I lived. Sharing a room with 5 strangers, keeping my valuables in a locker, trying not to think about the fact that I was technically homeless. My job started and things got a little better. I could afford a room in a shared apartment. It was tiny, barely bigger than a closet, but it was mine. I had a door that locked, and a window that looked out at a brick wall, and that was enough. Work was good. Really good, actually. The pharmaceutical company where Id landed was doing innovative research, and I got to be part of it. I threw myself into the job completely. Worked 60-hour weeks, volunteered for every project, made myself indispensable, because if I stopped working, I had to think. And if I thought, I remembered. And remembering hurt too much. That first Thanksgiving, I ate ramen noodles alone in my room and cried until I couldn't breathe. I blocked my parents' number after my mother called for the 47th time, asking when I was going to apologize to Meredith. Not asking how I was doing, not saying she missed me, just demanding I apologize for crimes I didn't commit. I blocked all their numbers that night. Cut them off completely. Christmas was worse. The whole city was full of families and lights and joy, and I worked a double shift at the lab just to avoid thinking about what Id lost. But I saved money. Every paycheck, I put aside as much as I could, built my emergency fund back up, focused on the future instead of the past. Year 2 was when things started shifting. I got promoted. Junior researcher to research associate. More responsibility, more pay, more respect. My boss told me I had real talent, that I could go far in this field. I started actually believing it. That year I also met Juliet again. Remember her? My roommate from Cornell? She'd moved to Boston for work too, and we ran into each other at a coffee shop. She took one look at me and knew something was wrong. "Cassidy Harper, you look like death. When's the last time you ate something that wasn't from a vending machine?" I burst into tears right there in the coffee shop. Juliet became my lifeline. She introduced me to her friends, invited me to dinners, made me remember what it felt like to be around people who actually liked me. Her family lived in the suburbs, and they started inviting me to holidays. The first time I sat at their Thanksgiving table, I almost couldn't handle it. Juliet's parents asked me about my work, and they actually listened to the answers. Her brother told a story about his promotion and everyone celebrated. Then Juliet mentioned her sister's new apartment and everyone celebrated that too. Nobody competed, nobody kept score. There was enough joy for everyone. I went home that night and cried for a different reason. Year 2 was also when I started therapy. Juliet convinced me to go. My therapist's name was Dr. Patel, and she was this small woman with sharp eyes who saw right through me from day one. "Tell me about your family," she said in our first session. I told her the whole story. Everything. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, She sat back and said, "Your family made you responsible for your sister's emotions. Do you understand that was never your job?" Something broke open in my chest. What? Your achievements, your existence, your happiness. None of those things were attacks on your sister. But your family treated them like they were. They made you manage her feelings instead of teaching her to manage her own. I sat there processing this. You were the scapegoat, Dr. Patel continued. In dysfunctional family systems, there's often a golden child and a scapegoat. The golden child can do no wrong. The scapegoat can do no right. No matter what you did, Cassidy, you were always going to be the problem. Because the family needed you to be the problem. That session changed my life. Over the next year, I unpacked everything. The comparisons, the favoritism, the manipulation. I learned terms like gaslighting and narcissistic family dynamics and trauma response. I learned that my anger was valid, that I had every right to be hurt. But I also learned something else. That anger, when channeled right, could become fuel. I used it. That rage at being thrown away. I used it to work harder, push further, achieve more. Not to prove anything to them, but to prove something to myself. That I was worth more than they ever saw. Years 3 and 4 blurred together in the best way. Promotions kept coming. My research got published in a medical journal. Big names in the industry started noticing my work. Headhunters called weekly. At 26, I was leading my own research team. People twice my age reported to me. The work was groundbreaking. We were developing treatments that could actually help people. And I was good at it. Really good. Then everything changed. A biotech startup in Seattle reached out. They were working on something revolutionary. A treatment for a rare genetic disorder. They wanted me to come on board. They were offering equity. I almost said no. Boston felt safe. I'd built a life there. But Juliet sat me down and said, "Cass, you need to take this. You'll regret it if you don't." So I moved to Seattle at 26. New city, new job, new chapter. The startup was intense. Long hours, high pressure, everything riding on whether we could make this treatment work. But we did it. After 18 months of round-the-clock work, we succeeded. The treatment worked. Clinical trials were incredible. People's lives were changing. And then a major pharmaceutical corporation offered to buy us out. The day the acquisition went through, I checked my bank account and almost fainted. My equity stake, after taxes, was worth $8.7 million. I was 27 years old, and I was a millionaire. I sat in my apartment staring at the number on my phone screen, and all I could think was that my parents had no idea. Meredith had no idea. They'd thrown me away thinking I was worthless, and now I was worth more than they'd see in their lifetimes. The company that bought us kept me on, promoted me actually. Director of Research, salary of $340,000 a year, corner office, team of researchers, respect from every person I worked with. I bought a downtown Seattle apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. I bought designer clothes. I hired a financial advisor to invest my money wisely. I became the person they never believed I could be. But here's the thing nobody tells you about success. It doesn't heal the wounds. It doesn't fill the emptiness where your family used to be. I had everything I'd ever wanted professionally. And I still lay awake some nights wondering if my parents ever thought about me. If they ever regretted what they did. If Meredith ever felt guilty. I hated that I still cared. 6 years later and I still wanted their approval, still wanted them to be proud of me, still wanted to matter to them. My therapist in Seattle, Dr. Kim, helped me work through it. "You can't control whether they ever acknowledge what they did," she said. "You can only control how you respond to that reality." "I want them to know," I admitted. "I want them to see what I've become." Is that petty? It's human. I was 28 years old. Successful beyond my wildest dreams. Living a life I'd built entirely on my own. Surrounded by people who valued me. And I was still carrying that wound. Then one morning in October, a letter showed up in my mail. It had been forwarded from 3 previous addresses, following me from Boston to Seattle. The return address was from a lawyer in Connecticut, Mr. Bernard Chen. My hands shook as I opened it, and everything changed again. The letter was typed on official law office letterhead. Professional, formal, completely devastating. Dear Miss Harper, I am writing on behalf of your parents, Robert and Diane Harper. I regret to inform you that your father has been diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The prognosis is 4 to 6 months. Your father has expressed a wish to see you before his condition deteriorates further. Your mother hopes you can find it in your heart to come home. Please contact our office at your earliest convenience to discuss arrangements. I stared at the words until they blurred. Stage 4, 4 to 6 months. My dad was dying. I should have felt something. Grief, fear, sadness. Instead, I felt numb and angry. Because even in this letter, even with my father dying, there was no apology, no acknowledgement of what they'd done. Just an expectation that it'd come running back. I read the letter 3 more times, looking for something. Some hint of remorse or regret. Some recognition that maybe, possibly, they'd made a mistake 6 years ago. Nothing. Just your mother hopes you can find it in your heart to come home. Like it was my heart that was the problem. Like I was the one being difficult. I put the letter down and called Juliet. My dad has cancer, I said when she answered. Oh my God, Cass. Stage 4. Has dying. Are you okay? I don't know. They want me to come home. There was a pause. Juliet knew the whole story. She'd been there through all of it. What do you want to do? She asked carefully. I have no idea. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about my father, the man who'd raised me, who'd taught me to ride a bike and helped me with my math homework and told me he was proud when I graduated high school. The same man who'd looked me in the eye and told me to leave his house. Who'd believed I was a thief. Who'd chosen Meredith over me without hesitation. People are complicated. That's what makes this hard. I couldn't just walk back into that house blind. I needed to know what I was walking into. So I hired a private investigator. His name was Marcus Webb, and he was ex-FBI. Juliet had used him for a background check on a business partner once. She said he was thorough and discreet. I gave him my family's address and asked for a full report. 1 week later, I met him at a coffee shop. He handed me a folder. You sure you want to read this? He asked. Why? Is it bad? Depends on your definition of bad. I opened the folder. The first section was about Meredith. Married to Kyle 4 years ago in a small ceremony at the courthouse. No big wedding. 3 kids. A 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 6-month-old baby. Still living at my parents' house. Never left. Kyle had been arrested twice. Once for DUI. Once for domestic disturbance, though the charges were dropped. Meredith worked part-time at a grocery store. Kyle was unemployed. They were drowning in credit card debt. Behind on car payments. No savings. And my parents had been supporting them financially for years. Paying for everything. Groceries, diapers, utilities, everything. My parents' retirement savings were almost completely gone. The house was in pre-foreclosure. They'd missed 4 mortgage payments. I sat there reading through page after page, and the picture became painfully clear. Meredith had bled them dry. The golden child had taken everything and given nothing back. I flipped to the next section, medical records. My dad's cancer diagnosis 6 months ago. Aggressive treatment that wasn't working. Medical bills piling up. My mom's health declining from stress. High blood pressure, anxiety, depression. The final page was a summary. Estimated total debt. Over $200,000 between medical bills, credit cards, and the mortgage. My parents were broke. Completely broke. And now my father was dying. I closed the folder and looked at Marcus. Thank you. You okay? Yeah, I think so. I wasn't. That night I found another letter in my mailbox. This one was handwritten, in my mother's familiar script. Dear Cassidy, I hope this letter finds you well. I know our last conversation wasn't pleasant, and I know you have every right to be angry with us. Your father is very sick. The doctors say there's not much time left. He asks about you constantly. He wants to see you before. Shed trailed off. Couldn't write the words. I need to be honest with you about something. We're in trouble financially. Meredith and Kyle have been living with us, and it's been harder than we expected. Medical bills are crushing us. We might lose the house. I know it's not fair to ask this after everything that happened, but we need your help. Please come home. We may have been too harsh 6 years ago. Things were complicated and emotions were high. But you're still our daughter. We love you. We need you. Please, Cassidy. Please come home. Mom, I read the letter twice. Then I laughed. Actually laughed out loud in my empty apartment. They didn't want reconciliation. They wanted my money. 6 years of silence. And suddenly they remembered I existed because they needed something from me. We may have been too harsh. That was the closest thing to an apology I was going to get. I sat on my couch with both letters in my hands. My father dying, my mother begging, Meredith taking everything. The family I'd once loved falling apart without me. And I felt the strangest mix of emotions. Anger at them for abandoning me and then expecting me to save them. Grief for what we could have been. Relief that I wasn't there, trapped in that dysfunction. And something else. Something cold and calculating. An opportunity. I could go back. On my terms this time. With the power. With the money. With the ability to finally make them see what they'd done. I could help them. Or I could walk away and let them drown in the mess they'd made. The choice was entirely mine. I thought about it for 3 days. Barely ate. Barely slept. Just turned it over and over in my mind. My therapist, Dr. Kim, listened to the whole story in our emergency session. "What do you want to do?" she asked. "I want to go back there and make them admit what they did. Is that realistic? Probably not. But I want it anyway. And if they don't admit it, if they refuse to take accountability," I thought about that. "Then at least he'll know. At least he'll have tried." She nodded slowly. "Just promise me something. Don't go back hoping they'll finally see you. Go back knowing you're already whole without them." I booked a flight to Connecticut that night, not because they deserved my help, not because I forgave them, but because I needed to close this chapter. I needed to see them face to face, successful and strong, and everything they said it'd never be. And then I needed to decide what came next. The plane landed on a cold November morning. I rented a luxury SUV, drove through the familiar streets of my hometown. Nothing had changed. Same houses, same trees, same streets. I'd walked as a kid. I pulled up in front of my parents' house and sat in the car for a long moment. The house looked run down, paint peeling, lawn overgrown, shutters hanging crooked. This was it. 6 years later. Full circle. I got out of the car, walked up the cracked driveway, and knocked on the door. My mother opened it. She looked old. So much older than I remembered. Gray hair, deep lines around her eyes, exhaustion in every movement. She stared at me like she was seeing a ghost. "Cassidy." Her voice cracked. "You came." I kept my face neutral, my voice calm. "I got your letters. Plural." My mother's hands were shaking as she stepped aside to let me in. The house smelled wrong. Stale food and dirty diapers and something musty underneath. It made my stomach turn. The living room was a disaster. Toys everywhere, dirty dishes stacked on the coffee table, mysterious stains on the carpet, a far cry from the pristine house I'd grown up in. "Let me get everyone," my mom said, hurrying toward the stairs. I stayed standing, didn't take off my coat, didn't sit, just looked around at the wreckage of my childhood home. Footsteps on the stairs. My father appeared first. I barely recognized him. Head lost at least 50 pounds. His skin had a yellow tinge, his eyes were sunken. Cancer had hollowed him out. Behind him came Meredith, carrying a baby. Shed gained weight, looked exhausted, hair pulled into a messy bun. 2 toddlers clung to her legs, whining. And Kyle, same stupid smirk on his face. Beer in his hand even though it wasn't even noon. He was sprawled on the couch like he owned the place. My father lowered himself carefully into his recliner, wincing. "Cassidy, you've done well for yourself." He was looking at my clothes, the designer coat, the expensive boots, the confidence in the way I stood. Meredith's voice came out bitter. Must be nice, living your fancy life in Seattle while we've been struggling here. Kyle snorted. Yeah, some of us have real responsibilities. He gestured at the kids with his beer bottle. I felt my jaw tighten but kept my voice even. I came because Dad is sick, not because of your letters begging for money. My mother flinched. Cassidy, please. Please what? You want me to pretend? Act like this is a normal family reunion. We're still family, my father said quietly. Are we? I looked at each of them. Because family doesn't kick people out. Family doesn't choose one child over another. Family doesn't spend 6 years in silence and then suddenly remember the other daughter exists when they need money. The room went very quiet. The toddlers stopped whining. Even Kyle's smirk faded a little. My mother's eyes filled with tears. We made mistakes. We know that now. Do you? Because your letter didn't say that. Your letter said you may have been too harsh. That's not the same as admitting you were wrong. My father shifted in his chair. We were wrong. We should have listened to you. We should have believed you about the money. And, I pressed. And what? And the 22 years before that? All the times you chose Meredith over me? All the times you made me feel like my existence was a burden. Meredith stood up, baby on her hip. Oh, here we go. Typical Cassidy, making everything about her. Dad is literally dying and you're bringing up old grudges. Something cold settled in my chest. Sit down, Meredith. Don't tell me what to do. Sit down. The tone of my voice must have surprised her because she actually sat. I took a breath and looked at each of them. 6 years ago, you kicked me out of this house. You accused me of stealing. You believed Kyle, a man you barely knew, over me. Your daughter. Kyle leaned forward. You need to watch how you talk about me in my house. I laughed. Your house? Kyle, you don't own anything. Not this house. Not that car outside. Nothing. You're a leech. You can't talk to my husband like that, Meredith said, standing again. I just did. Sit down. Stop telling me what to do. Meredith, Kyle. My father's voice cut through the chaos, weak but firm. Let her speak. Meredith looked shocked. My mother looked nervous. Kyle looked angry but didn't move. I continued, voice steady. I know everything. About the arrests, Kyle. About the debt. About you two bleeding my parents dry for 6 years. About the foreclosure. All of it. Meredith's face went white. How? I hired an investigator. I wasn't walking into this blind. You had us investigated. My mother sounded horrified. Yes. Because I learned a long time ago not to trust this family. The silence that followed was thick enough to cut. My father cleared his throat. We're in trouble, Cassidy. Real trouble. The medical bills alone are over $100,000. We're going to lose the house. We have nowhere to go. I know. So you came to help. My mother's voice held desperate hope. I came to decide whether to help. Decide. Meredith's voice rose. What kind of person makes their dying father beg? I turned to face her fully. The kind of person who was thrown away like garbage. The kind of person who rebuilt her entire life from nothing. The kind of person who doesn't owe you anything, Meredith. Has your father. And you're my sister, which didn't stop you from destroying my life when it suited you. She opened her mouth, closed it, for once had nothing to say. I turned back to my parents. I will help, but not because you deserve it. And definitely not without conditions. My mother moved forward. Anything, please. Don't agree before you hear the terms. My father nodded slowly. Tell us. I pulled a folder from my bag, a contract it had drawn up by my lawyer before I left Seattle. It'd been planning this speech on the flight over. Here is what's going to happen, I said, voice clear and cold. I will pay all of Dad's medical bills, every single one. I will bring your mortgage current and pay it off completely. I will put $20,000 in an account for the kids' education. Relief washed over their faces. Kyle actually smiled. But, I continued, and the relief disappeared. In exchange, Meredith and Kyle move out. Immediately. You have 1 week. What? Meredith shrieked. This is our home. It's Mom and Dad's home. And you've been destroying it for 6 years. Where are we supposed to go? We have 3 babies. I've already arranged an apartment. 1 bedroom in a decent building. First year paid for. After that, you're on your own. 1 bedroom for 5 people. That's what we can afford. Take it or leave it. Kyle stood up. You can't just kick us out. Watch me. This is a take it or leave it offer. Move out or my parents lose everything. Robert. My mother turned to my father, pleading. We can't just throw Meredith out. She's not throwing anyone out, Diane, my father said quietly. He looked at me with something that might have been respect or shame. She's saving our house. But where will they go? I told you. I have an apartment ready. I pulled out keys and an address card, held them out. Move in, ready, clean, safe neighborhood, everything you need. Meredith was crying now. You're tearing this family apart. I'm putting it back together. My way. This is revenge, she sobbed. You're punishing us. No, Meredith. I'm setting boundaries. There's a difference. I looked at my father. He was watching me with these tired, sad eyes. There's more, I said. Everyone attends family therapy. Weekly sessions for at least 6 months, non-negotiable. Therapy? My mother looked confused. Yes. Because this family is broken and pretending it's not won't help anyone. I'm not going to therapy, Kyle said. Then you don't get the apartment. Come on, baby. He turned to Meredith. We don't need this. Let's just go. Go where, Kyle? I asked. You have no money, no job, no savings. Where exactly are you going to take 3 kids? He had no answer. Meredith looked between us, face crumpling. This is all your fault. All of it. You left us. You abandoned this family and now everything's falling apart. I felt the familiar guilt trying to surface. That old pattern of taking responsibility for everyone else's problems. But then I remembered Dr. Kim's words. Not my job to manage their emotions. I left because you forced me out, I said calmly. I've been gone 6 years, Meredith. Look around. I'm not here. I haven't been here. And everything still fell apart. Maybe, just maybe, I was never the problem after all. The truth of that hung in the air. My mother sat down heavily, hand over her mouth. My father nodded slowly. She's right, Diane. Robert, she's right. We blamed Cassidy for everything, made her responsible for Meredith's happiness. And look what happened when she left. Nothing got better. Everything got worse. It was the first time anyone in this family had ever said that out loud. Meredith was sobbing now, ugly crying with the baby still in her arms. One of the toddlers started crying too. I felt a flicker of guilt, pushed it down. These are the terms, I said. All of you or none of you, decide now. My father looked at Meredith. Take the offer. It's the only one you'll get. Daddy, I mean it. We have nothing left, sweetheart. Nothing. This house is being foreclosed on. I'm dying and can't even afford my medications. Either we take Cassidy's help or we lose everything. Kyle grabbed his jacket. This is messed up. I'm out of here. Then go, I said. He looked at Meredith, waiting for her to follow. She didn't move, just stood there crying, holding the baby. Kyle's face hardened. Fine. Whatever. He stormed out, slamming the door behind him. Good riddance. Meredith sank onto the couch. What have I done? She whispered. Nobody answered. I set the folder on the coffee table. The moving truck comes Thursday. That gives you 5 days. Pack your things. Move into the apartment. Start therapy next week. What about Kyle? Meredith asked. That's up to you. But he doesn't get a free ride anymore. If he wants to live in that apartment, he needs a job. Or you divorce him. Your choice. She nodded numbly. I looked at my parents. They looked small suddenly. Old and tired and defeated. I'll be staying at a hotel for the next week, I said, to oversee the transition. After that, I'm going back to Seattle. I'll visit once a month while Dad is sick. But I'm not moving back here. This isn't my home anymore. My mother was crying silently now. My father met my eyes. Thank you. I know we don't deserve this. You're right, you don't. I picked up my bag and headed for the door. Cassidy. My father's voice stopped me. I turned back. "I'm proud of you," he said. "I should have said it years ago. But I'm saying it now. I'm proud of who you've become." Something broke in my chest. But I kept my face neutral. "Thanks, Dad." I walked out into the cold November air, got in my rental car, drove to the nearest hotel, and then, finally, I let myself fall apart. The next 5 days were chaos. I moved my parents' belongings into a storage unit, paid for a year in advance, hired movers to help Meredith pack, arranged for a cleaning service to come scrub the house top to bottom once everyone was out. Meredith barely spoke to me, just moved through the house like a ghost, packing boxes, wrangling kids, looking shell-shocked. Kyle came back the second day, tail between his legs, nowhere else to go. I made it clear he wasn't welcome in my presence, so he avoided me, sulked in corners, muttered about what a witch I was. I didn't care. On Thursday, the moving truck arrived. I watched from my rental car as they loaded Meredith and Kyle's stuff. Not much of it, really. Some furniture, clothes, toys, boxes of random things. The accumulation of two people who'd never really launched. The apartment it arranged was in a working-class neighborhood about 20 minutes away. Not fancy, but clean and safe. 1 bedroom, small living area, kitchenette. The kids would have to share the bedroom with their parents, but it was better than homeless. I'd stocked the fridge and pantry. First month's utilities paid, gave Meredith a grocery gift card for $200. She took it without meeting my eyes. "There's information about food banks and WIC on the counter," I told her. "And a list of daycares with sliding scale fees. Kyle needs to find work. There's also information about workforce development programs." "I know how to survive," she said quietly. "Do you? Because you've been living off Mom and Dad for 6 years. She flinched but didn't argue. The apartment was small and crowded with their stuff and the 3 kids, but it was theirs. 1 year to get their act together. After that, they were on their own. Back at my parents' house, the transformation was remarkable. With Meredith and Kyle gone, with everything cleaned and organized, the house looked almost like I remembered from childhood. I hired a home health aide named Patricia. She'd come every day to help my father with medications, bathing, meals. My mother couldn't handle it alone. The medical bills, all $120,000 of them, cleared through my accounts. The mortgage balance, paid in full. The title would be in my parents' names, but the house was secure. My father cried when I showed him the paperwork. "I don't deserve this," he said. "No, but I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it because you're my father and you're dying and I can't let you die in debt and fear." He nodded. "Understood." The education trust for the kids was set up, $20,000 that Meredith couldn't touch, only for college or trade school, managed by a trustee. My mother kept trying to hug me, thank me, tell me how generous I was being. I didn't let her, kept my distance, professional, polite, cold. "I'm not doing this out of love," I told her one evening. "I'm doing this because it's the right thing to do." Don't confuse the two. She looked hurt. Good, now she knew how it felt. The first therapy appointment was scheduled for the following Tuesday. Dr. Patricia Monroe, highly recommended, specialized in family trauma. I'd already had 2 phone sessions with her myself to explain the background. My mother was nervous. My father was agreeable. Meredith said she'd come, but I didn't believe her. I flew back to Seattle on Sunday, back to my real life, my apartment, my job. But I'd be back the following weekend. I'd committed to monthly visits and I kept my commitments. Unlike some people, that first therapy session happened without me. I wasn't ready yet. I wanted them to start without me, to begin the process of examining what they'd done. Dr. Monroe called me afterward for an update. Patient confidentiality meant she couldn't tell me everything, but she could give me an overview. "Your mother is very defensive," Dr. Monroe said. "She keeps insisting they were good parents who made one mistake." One mistake, yes. She sees your departure as the aberration, not the pattern leading up to it. What about my father? Hes more introspective, more willing to look at his role. I think the cancer diagnosis has given him perspective. And Meredith, she didn't show up. Of course she didn't. Week 2, Meredith came. Dr. Monroe said she spent most of the session crying about how hard her life was. Single mom with 3 kids, husband who wouldn't work, no support system. Did she take any accountability? I asked. Not yet. Week 3 was when I came back. My monthly visit. I sat in that therapy office with my parents and felt like a stranger observing someone else's family. My mother talked first, about how much Shed missed me, how hard the last 6 years had been without me, how Shed always loved me even if she didn't show it well. Do you understand why I left? I asked her. Because we accused you of something you didn't do. Before that, the 22 years before that. She looked confused. What do you mean? Every single day of my childhood, you made it clear Meredith mattered more. Every achievement I had was dismissed. Every problem Meredith had was my fault. I spent my entire life trying to earn your love, and never once did I succeed. My mother's face crumpled. That's not true. It is true. Dr. Monroe, isn't there a term for what they did? Dr. Monroe nodded. Scapegoating. In dysfunctional family systems, one child becomes the identified problem. The scapegoat absorbs all the family dysfunction, so the others don't have to address their own issues. My mother shook her head. I didn't do that. You did, my father said quietly. We all turned to look at him. He continued, voice weak but clear. Diane, we did. I see it now. We always protected Meredith, always made excuses for her. And we expected Cassidy to just handle everything on her own because she was smart and capable and strong. I thought she was strong enough, my mother whispered. She was a child, I said. I needed you too. I needed you to be proud of me, to celebrate me, to choose me sometimes. Just once. I did choose you. When? Name one time you chose me over Meredith. The silence was deafening. My mother couldn't answer, because there wasn't an answer. Dr. Monroe leaned forward. Mrs. Harper, I want you to sit with that. I want you to really think about what Cassidy is saying, because until you can acknowledge the pattern, you can't heal from it. My mother nodded, tears streaming down her face. My father reached for my hand. I let him take it. I was proud of you, Cassidy, he said. I know I never said it, but watching you walk across that stage at Cornell, getting your degree, I was so proud I could barely breathe. I just never told you because I thought you already knew. How would I know if you never said it? I thought you didn't need to hear it. Everyone needs to hear it, Dad, especially from their parents. He squeezed my hand. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for all of it. For not protecting you, for not seeing what was happening, for choosing your sister, for kicking you out, for all the years before that when I should have done better. It was the apology I'd been waiting 6 years to hear, and it broke something open in me. I cried in that therapist's office. Really cried. Not polite tears, but ugly, snotty, broken crying. Years of pain pouring out. My father cried with me, my mother too. Dr. Monroe just sat there, letting us feel it. When we finally calmed down, she said, "This is the beginning, the real beginning. But there's still a lot of work to do." We nodded. All of us. After the session, my parents asked if I wanted to come back to the house for dinner. I said yes. It was strange, being there. The house was clean now, organized, peaceful without Meredith and Kyle's chaos. Patricia, the health aide, had made pot roast. We sat at the kitchen table like a normal family. My mother asked about my work, actually listened to the answers, asked follow-up questions, told me it sounded impressive. My father asked about Seattle, if I liked it there, if I'd made friends, if I was happy, and I realized with a shock that this was the first time in my entire life my parents had asked about my life and genuinely cared about the answer. It was sad that it took 36 years for this to happen, but it was something,